drop it in the chat. All right. Just a pretty quick update. This week we are looking ahead, and we are in the process of planning for the start of Sprint 32, which begins next week. That means we are closing out on Sprint 31. You're welcome to read in detail the priorities that are listed here. I would say at a high level, we are in good shape. We are on track through most of the things. We are looking forward to most things being completed by the end of this sprint, and if there is rollover, it would only be related to, in some cases, related to just getting that PR merged. And in most instances, the PRs are in that review cycle at this point. Do want to call out a couple things related to the work that's in progress, and I'll do that in just a second. But that's the priorities of our sprint. In general, we're in pretty good shape, and I will call out risks and places where things might not be in as good of shape as we go through this update. Our plan is to release our node 9.8 next week. You're welcome to take a look at that release plan. It showcases as of today what is likely, what is absolutely in that release, and then you can follow along in the current sprint, to see what else might be there by the time that we usually lock down on the release by end of day Tuesday at the latest, because we want to have it ready to play with in our community test. The testnet is up. And I will talk a little bit about some changes that are in testnet right now. We are planning to use the public testnet for our community test tomorrow. And so if you are very much interested, I encourage you to turn your attention to Discord in the testnet channel. You'll notice that Voki has put in information that we relaunched the testnet earlier today, several hours ago. Everything that you would need to know to connect to our temporary version is in that channel. When we are done with the community test tomorrow, we do intend to restore this testnet to the state that it was at the point that we relaunched it today. We're not going to leave this kind of temporary thing up. We're going to restore it, and then we intend to reboot it with the release of 9.8 next week. So if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to either ask here, happy to help here, or certainly in the testnet channel in Discord. But we needed a place to test some new features that have gone into Node over the past week, and we wanted to play with them before we made the release of 9.8 to see if they mitigate some of the challenges we've had early on, largely related to adequate peering and getting that Genesis block in a very timely manner. A number of things have gone in over the past several weeks, and I think we're in the clear related to those issues that we all felt so strongly when they were painful points several weeks ago. So I'm hoping that tomorrow we can validate all of that and then just move on. But that's what's happening in testnet right now. If you are interested in what is happening in the community test, I just posted a worksheet in the node testing channel. You are welcome to take a look at that. This is an interesting community test in that we're happy to invite people to participate asynchronously. You can participate right now if you would like to, or throughout the rest of the hours before we arrive at 1400 UTC tomorrow. So please take a look at that worksheet. If you are wanting to spin up a node and participate, that would be great. Your feedback is welcome, and that worksheet will explain for you blocking testnet 2. And these are things that I spoke about in detail last week, so I'm not going to rehash that here, but suffice to say, if you're very curious about what is the status of the launch of testnet 2, please see RChain 3168. You can see what's currently blocking it, and there's traceability for the status of those issues. The biggest thing that's blocking it is the delivery of cost accounting. We're well aware of what needs to be done to provide that, and we're working on a variety of fronts to do that. Also spoke last week about the risks to code completion for Mercury, just retailing them here. Nothing new, nothing has changed since last week related to those risks. And just to call out that we do have implementation of Peak in progress in this sprint, and will continue into next sprint. And we will see work start on rolling to address bloat in the tuple space by reducing garbage. That would be RChain 3542. Some of that work will also start next sprint. So Good news there. With regard to consensus, just as a reminder that with this upcoming release, there will no longer be a faucet in the code base. And so if you have relied on the faucet to do things as a app developer or a node operator and to play with the platform, that won't be there anymore. It's not there in dev right now. There are other ways to fund a wallet. If you need some support in that, please don't hesitate to let me know. Basically, you fund a wallet at Genesis, and then you will have tokens to play with. But we didn't want to maintain a faucet in the code base because of the risk related to that. So that is gone. Please plan accordingly. If you're currently using it in 9.7, you will not be able to use it in 9.8. We also continue on the foundational work for validator bonding and unbonding. When I say foundational, these are largely aspects of Rolang that needs to be implemented to support bonding and unbonding. Ovidio is making excellent progress on that, and we intend to have most of that completed by the end of this sprint. Some of it will happen in the next sprint, and then we'll start knitting all of those foundational pieces together to complete the new bonding and unbonding protocol. There is a PR in review to validate the process of converting an ETH address to a Rev Vault address. This is really important if you're a rock holder because you want that ETH, that address and your rock balance to convert to Rev at Genesis. And so we're just validating that process. This is a part of the work of preparing for the launch of testnet 2. And there's a PR and review related to that at this point. In Node, we have completed the work to deliver the fairness property. This is a big part of what we're looking forward to testing and validating in our community test tomorrow. And so that work is completed, and we're making excellent progress, just blowing through the backlog of bugs and optimizations on Node. Really very pleased with the work that the team is doing there. And we've added some additional work into this sprint to support other developer teams to have metrics that they need to better understand the success of the work that they're doing. Largely, this is happening for Casper, and I anticipate we'll see some of this happen for RSpace in an upcoming sprint. The Rolling team, we are taking a new approach to complete and deliver the work on cost accounting. We've added another dev to the work to help investigate and debug failing tests. This is one of the largest blockers right now, is that there just are a number of tests related to the consensus module that fail as related to changes that we've had to make for cost accounting to work. And so they are in the process of investigating those and debugging those now as a team of 2 instead of a team of 1. So hoping to find some acceleration there, and certainly appreciate the team's flexibility to flex and prioritize this work. We do have PRs in review for the implementations of basic lock and readers writers lock. We hope that these 2 new things will help unblock these bugs shown here on the screen. And those PRs are certainly in review, and we're making good progress there. And then work is in progress to make use of the on-chain deploy and the deployer ID with a Rev Vault. Tim reports at Stand Up today that he discovered something that was unexpected, but believes that the fix should be fairly quick. And I think that that will be his priority starting tomorrow to do that work and get these things complete. Very excited to report that we are well ahead of schedule for implementing Peak in RSpace. The team had a full understanding of what peak meant at the point that we found out that we would have to have peak to support cost accounting. Dom has been very focused on delivering peak for RSpace. There's a draft PR in, and he reported anticipating completion by early next week for the implementation of peak in RSpace. And then what we've just decided to do is, because we have a lot of peak knowledge in the RSpace team, we will help bring that awareness to the other components who also have to implement peak, and that would be Rolang, and then of course Casper would have to take advantage of peak both in Rolang and in RSpace. So we're going to have Wukash, who's on the RSpace team, provide the support to deliver peak to the Rolang component, and then we're going to have Dom give a walkthrough of peak to the consensus team next week and provide some coaching support for them as they work to make Casper take advantage of peak and help unblock cost accounting. Basically, as a reminder, what we're trying to do is to mitigate conflicts in blocks when cost accounting is implemented. And peak is a feature. It's the ability to look at a value and not change it that would help mitigate those conflicts. And so that's why this work is so important. That's why we've pivoted the team a bit in order to deliver it quickly. We do have a draft PR in for soft checkpoints. Again, this is part of the optimization work and to optimization of both RSpace and just the performance of the platform, and looking forward to have that completed by end of sprint as promised. And then we're also in progress to train Kayvon. So Kayvon came onto the development team. He's been in and out of the core development team for well over a year, doing a variety of things, and then pivoted to RSong, and then came back to the core development team as part of our dev retreat in May, and has been working very closely with the RSpace team on work there. And we are in the process. And I also will add, RSpace has some significant barriers to entry. It's a big thing to learn, and it's a big thing to be able to learn it quickly and then be able to contribute meaningfully to this component of the project. So we have been upskilling Kayvon in this space to build depth in the RSpace team, and so the focus right now is making sure that he has full awareness of the performance test harness, of peak, and drone, in order to build some support and depth, especially as we are here in the summer season, where we've collaborated in a way to kind of cascade our vacation time, but we are in a place where we would benefit from some added depth to help provide coverage as people are coming on and off vacation over the next several weeks. The SRA team reports that the orchestrator is complete for one of the hardening networks. An orchestrator means that we are able to very quickly deploy many, many nodes and run tests on them, and that's part of our hardening effort. And then we're currently blocked on white block work related to our migration to SecP 256K1. The work is in progress to unblock that, and I anticipate by the end of the week that that will be unblocked. So that is where we are. Are there any questions? Great, thanks everyone.
Well, actually, Kelly, I just wanted to give people a chance before I ask a few. So we were having issues with the proposed taking longer and longer, and then when we rolled out the new RSpace, we stopped seeing that as often. How is that? How is that proceeding? Are we seeing longer and longer times for propose, or?
We're not seeing them, and I say this with a tremendous amount of caution. We're not seeing them, and we don't know why. So good news, if you're interested in good news, we're not seeing them. Bad news is we don't know why. We did stop seeing them soon after we introduced new RSpace. We did stop seeing it soon after we introduced some optimizations, particularly the work that Dom did in the try. And I cannot say definitively that that's the work that resolved it.
Okay, all right, yeah, the self-healing software makes me nervous.
Yeah, me too. But it's a sensibility that we are that we share as a team, meaning that we're looking for it. We have metrics in place to look for it. If you're a testnet user and you're observing increases in time to propose, please don't hesitate to shout that out. That's really important information, because this is something that we are unable currently to reproduce based on what we saw previously.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, it's good that we're not seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Still would like to understand why we're not seeing it, or why I'd rather understand why we were seeing it in the first place.
Yeah.
But I'm glad the issue seems to be resolved. Okay. Any other questions from the community? So there's one other piece here. So we've talked about this a couple of times now, but would like the community to understand how the listen for data at name API is changing. And so Kelly, I was hoping, I was talking with Derek yesterday. I was hoping maybe you and Chris and I can get together and do an RCast on how the listen for data at name is changing, because I think that that's a major entry point into the platform, and I want there to be sort of a more in-depth conversation about that. Is that something we can pull together, you think?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I think based on our last stand up that we have a good read on what it is that we intend to do, and what changes to listen for data at name should look like. We know who would be the person to do that work. We're not quite sure when that work would get done, but I think we could certainly talk in more detail about what that means and what that might look like when it's available.
Good, good. That's excellent. So we're also proceeding forward with some exchanges. Who I'm now engaged with the discussions of with the technical teams, and so we'll need to get them up to speed on how to access the platform. So this kind of work will be helpful, and collating the documentation in general, I think is going to be a helpful next step for this kind of thing. So thanks very much. Okay, so we have a few things to talk about. So the we, if anyone has noticed, we've taken down the RSong application from the test flight and from the Google Play Store, because we're going to remove the immersion codec and launch a player that does not use the immersion codec. Where we've come to a mutual agreement on the termination of that licensing arrangement. And so we'll be producing a player that has a different complexion when it comes to sustainability. So the player that we had before, there were effectively two code bases that we were maintaining to get on the Google and iOS platforms. So we'll be doing something that is React Native based, which allows us to have one code base and maintain it on both platforms. So that's a shift. We'll be rolling that out fairly slowly, because the main function, the main focus right now is to get to mainnet. But that's people should be apprised that if they notice that RSong doesn't work, it's because we've made that shift. It was a amicable arrangement by both parties, and there may be engagement in the future, but for now, this feels like the right thing for both concerns. So any questions about that?
If you're walking around, can you go on mute, please?
Sorry, no, that's just my wife leaving the house.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we are putting together we're addressing sort of the governance side of things. So we have Steve Ross Talbot is leading the charge to make sure that we're appropriately constituted, so that there's someone in place to get the governance committee up to speed and start to handle some of the issues that we're facing with respect to governance. I'll speak to the DFI process, which is on track based on their recent requests, but I'll speak to that in the closed door session on Friday. And let's see, is there anything else that we want to touch base on here? I would like to recommend that for those people who enjoy the brain candy sessions, we had a really, really good RCast that went up yesterday after the Monday set. I think maybe it went up on Monday even. So we did the recording on Monday, and the session went up, and I think the transcript is up today. So please, if you enjoy that, please give it a listen. Also, let other people know about these things. We have to kind of balance out the the make sure that there's plenty of positive press about what we're doing, especially as we get closer and closer to the launch of mainnet. So please, pitch in. I can say, and I'll give a lot more details that in the closed door session, but we have the conversations with the new potential investment partners have been going very well. And these are related to the conversations also with the exchanges that we're moving forward on. We did send a letter out to KuCoin and other exchanges regarding how we want them to handle those addresses that are blacklisted. More details on that in the closed door session, and I think that covers the business issues that we can talk about in this format. Any questions on these on those topics? Okay. With that, I'm happy to yield the time back to the community unless there's anything that people want to ask about or talk about.
Rao brings up a question in the chat related to metrics. We've been using CodeCov, and his question directs us to take a look at it and realize that it looks like it's a bit busted, so that's something that we need to fix. But that's where we're looking at that, Rao.
Cool. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks so much to everyone, and see some of you Friday.